What's Superman? Actually, I guess that's not a good analogy. Superman doesn't really have a sidekick. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is, what's Batman without Robin? Right? What's a king without his right-hand man? What's another pair like that? Well, either way, what I'm getting at is, what are quads without hamstrings? Right? What are a big, thick front of the thigh without a balanced coupling in the back so that you don't have funky looking legs? Now, some might argue, well, you can't really see your hamstrings, and hamstring curls are boring. Right? I've heard that comment, I guess not heard, but I've seen that comment said before. Doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies when I hear it. Right? Frankly, it kind of gives me a little, just, I don't know. It's like when you see a video of a kid go up on Halloween from the Ring doorbell cam, and it says take one, and then the guy takes the entire bowl and pours it into his bag, and then he takes maybe like 3 pieces of candy out and puts it back, so he thinks he's nice. It's just like, it's a losing faith in humanity kind of situation. But never fear, right? There are still the few who get after it and wreck their hamstrings in a good way. Oh yeah. So that's the plan for tonight, or this evening rather. Nothing wild, but I think I've got an idea, that's for sure. So a little bit chill because I've only got the laying curl. The seated curl and other seated leg extension, that's still kind of in the future. Waiting on kind of takes a while to get this sort of stuff moving around, But yeah, so I think laying curls will be the primary hamstring mover, coupled with some Smith machine RDLs. And with the Smith RDL, it's hard to go wrong, man. Frankly, it is hard to go wrong. Simply because it's in a controlled state, right? You don't have to worry about moving backward or forward. And especially, I guess it depends on the Smith machine. But for the ones I use, or at least the ones I've used historically, I've always had to kind of sit, or not sit, but stand up on an elevated block, just to kind of make sure I can actually get a real deep range of motion, which is something that I've only just over the last couple of years really started to put more value on, or really just kind of catching myself on movements where I wasn't really making full use of it, right? Like my hamstring curls 2 years ago, if you go back and watch a leg day, very different. Kind of short, not so all the way down to the top. And I think I was really missing out on that length and portion. Right? Same thing with triceps. Same thing with, honestly, really hamstrings and triceps were the ones that I was really limiting my stretch factor with. But upon improving that, I do feel as though I've got a better grasp of actually hitting them in a good, muscle gaining kind of freaking way. So yeah, I think. Well, I'm not sure what I'll do, because by the time I get back in the car and drive home, I want my hamstrings to be destroyed. Like, I'm not this isn't supposed to be, light leg day because we're just doing hamstrings. That's not the point, right? 4 days ago was quads, and there's no hamstring involved, apart from like the secondary action of your hamstrings on a leg press, because that's still pretty, like if you do 5 real heavy sets of leg press, your hamstrings are going to get involved. So that's kind of my logic for, okay, I don't need to hit hamstrings on my crazy quad heavy day, because they do get worked residually. But right, this is the yang to that yin. If I wrecked my quads last leg day on the quad focus day, and today's dedicated solely to hamstrings, then I really don't want to hold anything back, damage wise, fatigue wise, anything wise. Like that's not something I want to worry about in the lift. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go into set number 1 or set number 3 or set number whatever and think, all right, I don't know, is this going to be too much to recover from? I don't know, is this going to be too much for me to, am I going to feel sore tomorrow? Whoa. It's kind of weird, like I was like halfway on the curb. But you know, I'm not doing these sets and thinking, oh crap, well, I've got so many sets to do later, I gotta hold back and keep my energy up. Right? Not cool. It's kind of a weird situation to think about it like this, but I feel as though each set should be taken to a point where you have absolutely no concern with the sets that you will have done in the future or with the ones that you've done in the past, right? It's simply you and the hamstring curl set to whatever weight and whatever style you're about to do, and nothing else freaking matters apart from how nuts you can go in this very moment, right? Now, of course, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. Let's say I'm doing a set of adductors. You know, I'm not going to put myself into the mental state of like, all right, this is it. You know, then do some, some sets of leg squeezing, right? With, there, of course, there's like, you know, more just work where you're just kind of doing it, right? But for the most part, what I'm getting at, with all your real, regular working sets, the ones that you want to put your whole freaking energy into as a lifter, then that's what I want to get out of it, right? If I get under a squat bar, or if I get under a leg press, or if I mean, yesterday I want to grab the 75s for some curls, whether or not that's more effective than just doing the 50s for slightly longer, slower reps, who's to say. But I'm not trying to think, okay, let's do a casual set here. All right, that's not the point. Especially not for a mid-off season, I'm trying to grow kind of situation, right? My freaking primary directive is to go nuts and then deal with the aftermath at home, right? I'm not going to be thinking about my recovery until I have to go home and actually recover, you know? Because if you're so concerned with, oh man, my quads are going to be sore tomorrow, you're never really going to go nuts on quads, because you know, you're only just kind of, you know, fearing what I feel is basically the positive effect of the training itself, you know? So that's something to be embraced. It's not a I mean, we've all been there, you know, you wake up after a real quad workout and even just like squatting down onto the toilet, you're like, ooh, you know, it's kind of funny. When I started working out, you know, year 1, even like it honestly probably kind of deep into year 2 almost. But I mean, for a while I was not hitting quads how I should. I mean, I do some leg extensions in there sometimes, but I was, you know, I fell into the trap like everybody. Chest, back, arms, shoulders, you know, legs, whatever, right? I mean, we've all been there. It's nothing to be ashamed about, but it's just a, you know, a stepping stone state of mind that we all go through. And you know, I'd still be watching all the same like Machiavelli motivation videos where, you know, it's the Dorian Yates blood and guts, he's going crazy on legs, or Tom Platz and everything, and they'd say that same thing. It's like, you know, it hurts to sit down in the toilet, and I had no freaking idea what they were talking about. You know, like I could grasp the idea of like having sore legs, but I never related to that exact situation until much later on when you actually like do it and live it. So that's the fun part I'm trying to get at, right? So I think no more rambling about it. Let's just go make it happen. And ideally, I will be limping to the car in a good way. So let's see if I can live up to it. All right, in the spirit of what I was kind of saying in the car, and as well as just kind of feeling how I'm feeling after actually getting in here and sitting down and warming up and everything, of which I've just really bounced around between lighter curls, increasing in weight, and the calf raise. Because, you know, whether or not you know it, I do feel as though, well, this isn't even a question of opinion. If I don't warm up my calves pre-hamstring curls, sometimes I get a sort of tenderness in the back of my knee that I'm not really a massive fan of. And it's kind of just because, I mean, you know, like think about your arms. Your legs aren't so different, right? I mean, your calf is essentially just the forearm of your leg, and your forearm's coming to play in a curl. So it would make sense to get them warmed at least a little. Just ends up feeling better. But what I was about to say was, let's just stick here. You know, no reason to bounce around, at least not until I feel like I've gotten every bit of just oomph I can get out of the lane curl. And one thing that's freaking sweet about this one is it is heavy. Like, there's some lane curls where even when I'm dieting down, like I'm loading a lot of weight and just kind of throwing it around, like within reason. But I'd say just about 110 or 100 on this machine feels like what other machines usually have at, like, you know, 200 or like 250, right? So it's a good efficient use of the stack. Plus, I don't really need to be going so heavy anyway, because I want to get a full extension at the bottom, right? Like seated curls, I'm not so concerned with making sure I get to like a complete straight leg. And even here, I'm not going like all the way straight. It's kind of the get into the danger zone a little bit, I feel. At least if you've got, you know, a good amount of weight. But I do want to get a real good extension. Right, the stretch I was talking about before. So, let's just make this shit happen. I can go one notch heavier. All right. Okay. Oh, that might be a little too heavy. Let's go back to the 100. Whew. Oh my God. Oh. One more with that weight. All right. Oh my God. Oh. All right, I gotta drop it to 90. But a few more. Honestly, let's just keep running these up. Because, I mean, you know, I don't know if this makes sense to you or not, but it's like after I do a crazy set of squats, I don't feel like I can do 6 more sets, right? But after these sets, I mean, even though I feel like I'm taking them to legit failure, I still feel like I can keep going, you know? So let's just spam these until they're no longer freaking feasible. Right, I got a damn big-ass orange in a juicer. Every set, I'm getting more and more cups of juice out. You know, usually I'm not one to, you know, think about any people in particular and get amped up. But since I know that in just a week from now, I'm going to be surrounded by all the freaking, well, not surrounded, but, you know, the Pittsburgh Pro. I mean, fucking everybody's going to be there. Frankly, I mean, in terms of the open competition, I don't want to say it's going to be more stacked. Well, actually, yeah, shit. It will. Freaking Fitzwater's going to be there. Beast. Nick Walker's making his, is this the competitive return? Also a freaking I mean, to say a freak, it's almost understated. Good Vito. I got to see him in competition, I think maybe 2 years ago or so. Demon. I mean, frankly, it's going to be nuts. If you've never seen an open bodybuilding show in person, or any bodybuilding show, you are missing out, right? And this will be good motivation for me because I'm going to get to see the classic guys competing too. Because, you know, in the amateur circuit versus the professional classic circuit, very different. Plus, these guys are all 10 pounds heavier, you know, for every inch of height, because that's kind of how they even it out. You know, for open, they say big as possible. Show up. That's it. All right, the check-in is simply, are you here? But for classic, you got to hit a certain weight cap, which, you know, I'm not sure exactly how, like, perfectly even it is, because I think it's about 10 pounds, 9 pounds for every inch of height, maybe 7, I'm not exactly sure. But that's how they balance it out, right? So a 5'2" guy, if he weighed the same as the 6'4" guy, he's going to look so much bigger than this guy up here, right? So they kind of make it where the taller you are, the heavier you are, and that's how it's sort of fair. But everybody's going to be freaking diced, you know, so that's just good motivation for me for probably next year, right? Because I got a whole off season first to pack on a bit of extra size. And frankly, these sets are what's going to do it. So let's go fucking nuts here. Hoo-ah, come on. Oh, a few more. Well, actually, that's not true. As many more as necessary. Oh my god. Okay. Let's do one more like that. And then change up the style. Okay. Oh, let's change it up. Do a fancier set for this next one. There we go. Yeah, we're just gonna camp out here today. We're definitely approaching the end. So I never really do these, but they look cool enough that I think they're worth it. And one thing that's cool about getting a good ass hamstring pump, I feel like I'm sitting down. My hamstrings are running into my calves and my legs just won't bend any further. But with this one, I think I'm going to do, I feel like I just saw somebody do this, but double leg up and then single leg negative, then double leg back up and then the other single leg negative, back and forth like that. So with about a little more than half the weight I was just using, I think this will be a good amount. If I have to drop and go a little lighter, then, you know, it's not a problem. I didn't break any rules. All right. All right. All right. Okay. Oh my God. Whew. I think one more of those, and honestly, that'll be it. All right. This is potentially the last set. So, not that I wanted to on any of the sets before this one, but here I really don't want to leave anything in the tank. All right, come on. Okay. Oh my God. All right. Yeah, I think hams are cooked. Oh, let's freaking roll. There's not really much to see with a hamstring pump check, you know? So, let's get in the car. All right. Yeah, have I got an analogy for you right freaking now? And this goes out to the, this goes out to the non-competitors. Right, this goes out to the lifters who simply are lifting because they want the gains that they will receive from it. And it's not to get up on stage and compete with anybody else, because that competition in and of itself ends up being a very clear and distinct focal point of your ability to make some shit happen, right? Whereas, for the regular lifter, you bulk up, you cut down some, you never get too lean, you never get like too soft either. Nobody should get too soft, of course, but there's no focal point. There's no pinnacle to reach such that you can either hit it or fail to hit it and have a sense of reflection of like, fuck, crap, I didn't do enough, And that's where I think a lot of characters might be putting themselves in a position to have to think back, however long in the future. Oh man, I should have done more. I should have worked out harder. I should have worked out more often. I shouldn't have skipped so many times. I should have actually stuck to a diet. I should have, and it's so many I should have statements, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? It's simply a situation of fuck. It's cool enough with the competitions or like any real specific time frame based goals, at least for me, because that was a good test, right? Can I actually stick to a pretty dang solid diet? And I mean, usually I can. I've bulked up and cut down, I don't know how many times, and in every cut I end up getting pretty lean. But actually getting that lean, that was a test. I've never done it before. So am I able to do it? Can I actually stick to it? I mean, as much belief as I can have, there's no data to prove it one way or the other definitively. So that's a good example of me being able to finish that whole competition season and say, oh my God, oh, must have just barely done enough at least, right? But unless you have a situation like that, be it a powerlifting meet, be it a bodybuilding thing, be it like a weight loss challenge, you want to hit 10% body fat by whenever, and you have some sort of stake motivating you to actually do it. If you kill it or if you fall short, both of those can be looked at as positive scenarios. If you kill it, you just prove to yourself that you can do it, and now you've raised your internal bar of what you think you can reach, because you just proved to yourself you could do something pretty dang cool, at least based on like your own standards, right? And if you fall short, hopefully at least it ends up being an eye-opening event of like, fuck, yeah, I guess I didn't really do enough this time. Shit. All right. And then, at least if you got a little bit of chip on your shoulder kind of mentality, you can say, all right, I'm gonna make this shit happen this time. I'm gonna learn from my mistakes, But if you never have an event like that, or like a goal or something, and it's I mean, there's most certainly more pressure when a lot of people are watching you to see if you're gonna actually be able to do something, because some people might look at that as a negative. Frankly, I only see that as a positive, at least for me in my case, right? Because, you know, I mean, it's not often, right? I mean, I feel like even if I didn't bring you guys along with me, I'd still kill it. But that's an extra motivating force. It's like, all right, these guys are watching, let's go extra crazy, you know? So I think that's a bit of a bonus for me, which is, you know, kind of rare to come by. But if it's just you, and you've got this specific goal, you say you want to do something, and there's nothing else to hold you to it except for yourself. I mean, we've all been there, right? You're dieting down, at least, you know, if you have been there. You go in the fridge, you go in the pantry, you grab the ice cream out of the freezer. All right, I've got this specific goal, but this is gonna feel good to do right now, and it's gonna interfere. Screw it, let's just get some scoops in here. You know, finish a whole pint of Ben & Jerry's, and then you gotta say, shit, fuck, you know. But I guess what I'm getting at is, you know, if you're working out currently, pretty locked in, you know, you've got enough time to put a lot of energy into it. You know, nothing's really stopping you from having a pretty solid routine. That is incredibly valuable. And, you know, I see it, I mean, I see the comments, not like a ton, but sometimes, and it's guys where they're, you know, who's to say if it's a true thing? You know, some guys are just trolling, but like it's comments, oh man, you know, I wish I would have locked in harder when I was younger, right? I mean, you know, like I worked out pretty consistently, but I never took my diet seriously or anything else. So that's kind of the cool part, I guess, of sort of giving yourself or putting yourself in a position of having a specific time frame to make some shit happen. Because then, like I just said a second ago, you'll either hit it, prove to yourself you can do it, or, you know, show yourself, okay, I got to put more into it if I really want to make this happen next time. But then, you know, you can still come back and get after it. The problem is if you don't have an event like that, if you don't have a time frame like that, or anybody to hold you accountable, then that reflective moment of, oh man, yeah, I could have done more, that might happen far into the future by the time that you can no longer go back, right? I mean, I'm not one to say it's never too late to get into the gym. Quite the freaking opposite. You know, anybody of any freaking age and any freaking, you know, endeavor or, you know, way of life should all be pumping iron, at least, you know, to a reasonable degree. But, you know, let's not kid ourselves. You've got 10 years in your 20s, right? You've got 10 years in your 30s. You got 10 years in your 40s, and they disappear. They're gone, right? And there's no undoing what happened during them. So, if that's the case, and you're at least reasonably concerned with, you know, how you're gonna feel personally about your life in the future, then at least in some small vector or field, I think it's an awesome idea to go crazy hard at something and really push yourself to at least what you might call the limit on, you know, any given sort of thing. Because at least in the future, you'll have something to look back on and think, all right, yeah, either that was freaking badass, or you can at least say, yeah, I was a total gym nut in my 20s. I don't know what I was thinking, it was crazy. But you're never going to look back and think, man, I went too hard. Yeah, I put too much effort into that. Wow, I was being way too consistent and, you know, whatever. Oh, how many times are people going to say in the future, man, I wish I slacked off more. Oh, dude, I should have gone ways. Man, I was spending so much energy doing that stuff. Oh, never happens, right? Or at least I never freaking see it, you know? So that's a good little sort of thought process, I feel, if you're ever, you know, just a little out of it. You know, we've all been there. We've all kind of had that situation. Things are starting to feel monotonous. You know, days kind of bleed into the next. You know, sometimes you're just not in the most motivated freaking mindset. But if you can at least maintain this routine that you've given yourself, look, man, I'm sure we can all look back at certain periods of time and say, dude, I was fucking losing my mind for a couple of months, you know, blank, or however long ago, or, you know, some kind of shit just happened that's completely out of your control. Right? But the fact that you can say that means that you came out of it, you know, so why dig yourself into a deeper hole if you're going through something by slacking off and then having to catch back up towards whatever that end goal was at the time, right? So that's, I guess, is my finisher statement, right? Just keep on freaking moving forward, right? Regardless of, you know, circumstance or certain feelings or just whatever. Because at the end of it, you'll always be able to look back and think, all right, well, you know, at least I did something, right? Because just sitting around doing nothing, no fun. Absolutely no freaking fun. whatsoever. But my hamstrings are already feeling sore, so I'm excited to get home, eat something, and frankly, I need to go to bed early. I'm going to set my alarm for 5:30 tomorrow for cardio and actually stick to it, because I've got to, just got to get on a little better routine. Plus, I'm not sure what I want to do, because when you go to the Pittsburgh Pro Expo, I think it's the Pit Power. I forget the exact name of the event, but it's the expo related to the Pittsburgh Pro Bodybuilding Show. I'm going to be there from like 9 to 5, I guess 9 to 4 on Sunday. It's probably going to be in my best interest to hit an early lift before, right? And then, just spend the day talking to everybody, getting some food in, and maybe turning in early. So, I guess we'll, really, that's some shit I'm getting excited for next weekend. So, hopefully, if you're around, I will see you there. But if not, I'm sure we'll still see all the pictures of, everybody floating around. Yeah, I can't get over it. I love the freaking, what's the word I'm trying to think of? I love the congregations of, lifters and freaking bodybuilders and everybody else that happens. Arnold, Olympia, here at this expo, and then they're freaking all over the place every year. FIBO, the LA Fit Expo kind of bounces around. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna make some more appearances going forward, just because it's fucking fun seeing everybody, But I think that's enough for me hamstring wise. Oh shit, I gotta turn around. I need gas. I'm running low. So once I fill up and then get home, I'll get some food in my system. So I'll see you tomorrow.